I never imagined a love so powerful could bloom between a millionaire and a humble cleaning lady. The day I met him was surreal, like a movie I couldn't switch off. I will never forget the moment my world shattered into something unknowable. My heart raced, and my palms began to sweat just from the thought of facing him. His presence was overwhelming. Every morning, I entered that grand mansion, lost in the scent of expensive cologne lingering in the air. The floors sparkled, reflecting chandeliers that hung like stars above. I was merely a speck in this luxurious universe. But something about his gaze, piercing and intense, made me feel seen. My heart fluttered, and I tried to suppress my trembling hands as I dusted the high shelves where only shadows dwelled. That he was a mystery wrapped in silk suits and cashmere sweaters. I watched him through the corner of my eye, his dark hair perfectly tousled, his lips curved into an effortless smile. I felt like a moth drawn to an impossible flame. Was it my imagination, or did he linger longer when I walked past, his eyes flickering like candlelight? But secrets lay heavy in this mansion. Whispers of betrayal and family feuds echoed softly behind closed doors. They said the walls held stories of love, loss, and heartbreak as vibrant as the walls painted in deep crimson. I could sense the sadness in the air. It clung to my skin like a shroud of mystery, making it hard to breathe. As the days went by, that electric connection between us grew palpable. We exchanged fleeting smiles, a teasing look here and there. Each shared moment filled my chest with warmth, yet dread settled in my stomach. I knew my place. He was the world, and I was merely the mundane. Then came the day I stumbled upon a hidden room. Dust covered the door, as if it were a forgotten secret pushed aside. When I opened it, my breath hitched. I stepped into darkness, and the air felt thick with unanswered questions. Was it possible this room held the key to everything? To understanding him? Just then, I heard footsteps behind me. My heart raced. It was him. "Why are you here?" he asked, his voice low and filled with a mix of fear and intrigue. I swallowed hard, unsure how to answer. My heart drummed loudly. Did I dare cross that invisible line? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. His presence loomed even larger in that cramped space, casting an unmistakable shadow over the fragile air between us. I could see the flicker of tension in his eyes, and it mirrored my own surge of panic. This wasn't just any encounter, it was the kind of moment that could tip the scales, unraveling the tightly wound thread of our blooming connection. I was just cleaning, I stammered, words unsteady as I pointed toward the dust-covered furniture, hoping to quell the storm brewing in the room. I didn't mean to intrude. I was just curious. He studied me, the silence brimming with unspoken words and longing. The flicker of vulnerability I saw within him was startling. In that moment, he seemed less like the untouchable millionaire and more like a lost soul trapped amidst the riches that held him captive. Curiosity isn't forbidden, you know, he eventually replied, a faint smile breaking the tension. But this room, it holds more than just dust and forgotten furniture. The way he looked at me sent an electric rush through my veins, igniting a spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, this moment could mean something more. My heart fluttered with possibility as I took a small step closer, emboldened by his admission. What do you mean? He hesitated, eyes darting around the cramped room filled with relics of a life he had once lived but separated from by walls constructed of both privilege and pain. This was where I used to come to escape, he said softly, his voice almost a whisper. Before life became complicated. Before this house became just a gilded cage. In the intimacy of that moment, the barriers began to dissolve. I saw the tired weariness etched in his features, the kind that didn't belong to someone of his wealth. The emotion churning within me mixed with a fierce desire to understand his world more deeply, to become a part of it. Sometimes, I breathed, I feel like I'm just cleaning up someone else's mess. The floors are shiny, but the walls still carry all the weight. He stepped closer, our eyes locked, and I felt the gravity of our shared burdens creating a bridge of understanding. You too? He asked, almost incredulous, and for a heartbeat, it felt like those walls were crumbling. What weight do you carry? I hesitated, unsure if I could peel back those layers, expose my vulnerabilities, but something compelled me to share. I came from a place of struggle. I lost my family too soon and had to fend for myself. Cleaning this house feels like a ghost haunting my own life. Every corner echoes memories I cannot keep. His expression softened further, the lines of his face smoothing as he absorbed my admission. Life can be a cruel teacher, he said, a sadness weaving through his words. But kindness can be a refuge. It's in the little moments that we find solace. His hand brushed against mine, and I froze at the electricity of the gesture, the gentle warmth that lingered like an unspoken promise. Maybe we can be each other's solace, I suggested, surprised by my own words. Even in the chaos of our lives that he didn't withdraw but instead held my gaze longer, an unvoiced agreement lingering in the air. Just as that moment of fragile hope began to bloom, the door swung open behind him, revealing a tall woman with icy blue eyes, sharp enough to cut. A gasp escaped her lips, breaking the spell that had momentarily shielded us. What's going on here? She demanded, her voice slicing through the moment like a cold wind. The weight of her judgment was palpable, and my heart sank as I recoiled slightly. Suddenly, the world outside this hidden space came flooding back, filled with expectations and judgment that loomed much larger than I could tackle. I could feel the warmth of the connection we shared dissipating, replaced by the choking fear of repercussions that I started, but he quickly interrupted, his expression shifting into one of defiance. We were talking. You have no right to intrude. The unyielding tension crackled in the air, thick and suffocating. The woman narrowed her eyes at me, determination flickering like a candle flame doused by wind. You're in the wrong place, cleaning lady. Better remember your place before it costs you more than you're prepared to lose. I felt my heart plummet, dread clawing at my insides. With one final look between us, the shared connection suddenly shattered. I retreated, heart racing, the walls seemingly closing in. What had started as a moment of connection now felt like a collapse into chaos. A new challenge had emerged, and I could only hope it wouldn't consume everything we had barely started to build. As I stumbled into the glimmering halls, a chilling echo waited to catch up with me. I had thought the weight on my shoulders was heavy. Now, with her words still echoing in my ears, I feared it might shackle me entirely. I didn't know how fragile this budding love truly was, nor how powerful the forces of the world around us could be, and as I reached for the doorknob, I heard him call after me, his voice low and urgent. Wait. Don't go. I hesitated for a split moment, my heart pounding, before I made my choice. If I turned back now, would I risk it all? Each heartbeat seemed to scream for a return to him, yet a voice echoed in the depths of my mind. Choices were never simple, especially when they felt laced with destiny and despair. The echoed urgency in his voice clung to my heart as I stood frozen, my hand hovering over the doorknob. I longed to turn back, to reclaim that moment of connection, but fear wrapped its icy fingers around me, reminding me of the woman's piercing gaze and the invisible chains of our worlds. Please, he called again, desperation thickening his words, and I felt a wave of emotion crash over me. What if this was the last chance to escape the confines of our realities? Finally, I turned, feeling like I was moving through water, each step back toward him an act of defiance against the walls that sought to separate us. I can't, I whispered, the tremor in my voice a testament to my conflict. You're a cleaning lady, his voice echoed in my mind, matching the icy tone of the woman. But I pushed back against the self-doubt. I had fought through darkness before, maybe I could do so again. He stepped closer, his blue eyes pleading for understanding. You don't have to let her control this moment. We can find a way, panic and hope warred within me as his words ignited the ember of strength I thought long extinguished. Maybe there was a path, hidden among the shadows of his gilded cage that could lead us to a place of light. But the more pressing question was, could I risk this connection for something so intangible and fragile? The woman lingered in the doorway, her icy demeanor unwavering as she watched our exchange with concern slashed by disdain. "You don't belong here," she reiterated, her voice stony. "You think you can just waltz into his life and play friend? You have no idea what you're getting into." Something flickered inside me. Perhaps it was my stubborn defiance, or the remnants of my own hardships that gave me strength. Pulling my shoulders back, I met her gaze directly, refusing to recoiling from her judgment. "You don't know me, you were cleaning his house," she shot back, voice laced with condescension. "And that's all you will ever be. Just a cleaner," an afterthought that I felt a surge of anger rise within me, fueled by years of belittlement and dismissal. "You're wrong," I said, my voice steady and clearer now. "I might be a cleaner, but I am so much more than that to myself. And so is he." A silence loomed in the air, filled with unspoken tension that seemed to crackle with electricity. With each heartbeat, I felt the strength of my words weaving a tapestry of resilience. There was power in vulnerability, and perhaps that was the bridge we both needed to traverse this chasm of judgment and misunderstanding. That he stepped closer still, closing the gap between us, and I could feel the gravity of his presence settling over me like a warm blanket. "Let's not let her overshadow us," he urged, his gaze unwavering. "I won't let fear dictate how I feel and how we connect," the woman scoffed, crossing her arms defiantly, but I could sense a tremor in the stillness. The flush of uncertainty in her eyes betrayed her authority. "You think this is some kind of fairy tale?" she challenged, her voice losing a sliver of conviction. "It doesn't have to be," I said, pouring everything I had into my words as I continued to fight against the invisible tide pulling me back. "We can forge our own story, no matter how complicated life tries to make it. Enough." She snapped with a venomous hiss. "You don't belong in his narrative. You're just a footnote, a distraction from reality." Her words were barbed, designed to pierce through my resolve, but somehow, I found a flicker of strength in the challenge. "At least I'm real," I countered, the weight of my past suddenly feeling like armor I could wear. "I refuse to fade away into your image of who I should be." The air around us crackled, an unseen force starkly contrasted by the emotions we both laid bare. He turned to her with an unexpected fierceness. "You don't get to decide who is worthy or unworthy in my life. I will take risks for what I want, and I want her." In that moment, a fragile glimmer ignited between us, punctuated by uncertainty but anchored by raw honesty. It felt both daring and reckless, straddling the lines of desperation and hope. Then, as if the universe sought to push its cruel agenda, a loud crash echoed down the hallway, drawing all of our attention. We turned, immediately taut with fear as a figure stumbled into view, rage and fury etched across his face. "What's going on here?" he shouted, voice booming like thunder, a forceful interruption that swallowed the delicate moment whole. Fear gripped me again. The unknown man was an unwanted intruder, perhaps another layer of complication in this already tumultuous scene. My heart sank as I moved instinctively toward the door, panic prioritizing self-preservation over the burgeoning connection threatening to stretch taut between our hearts, and in the split second that followed, filled with uncertainty and dread, I realized I was at a crossroads. My choice could alter everything. Escape the turmoil or throw myself further into the torrent of possibilities despite the risk of drowning. As the realization settled heavily on my shoulders, I felt the nagging ache of destiny unfurling, a bittersweet, heartbreaking notion illuminating the darkness temporarily shrouding the halls of this grand house. The chaotic atmosphere of the moment was enough to choke me. I could feel the pulse of vulnerability mixing with the weight of fear, and as the stranger's angry eyes bore into us, it felt like the world I had just begun to step into was ready to shatter. "Who are you?" he demanded, eyes darting from the woman to us, misconstruing our entangled connection as a threat. The room seemed to shrink, the walls closing in with tension. I started, but he cut me off, his focus sharpened dangerously. "You don't belong here. Get away from her," he rasped, and his words felt like arrows aimed at the only flicker of hope I had kindled between us. My heart raced, a frantic bird trapped in a cage of shadows. "Stop," the man beside me asserted, an unwavering strength threading through his voice. "You're not hearing her," the stranger blinked, momentarily stunned by the sudden resolve in his tone. The intensity of the confrontation echoed, pulsing like the drum of impending thunder. It was as if the universe had conspired to throw every obstacle in our path just as we began to lift ourselves from the wreckage of our expectations. "There's nothing to hear," the intruder spat, nostrils flaring. "You're playing with fire, she's not worth it." A sharp breath escaped my lips, a protest sitting heavily in my throat. I looked at the woman, the one who had sought to cage our moment. Her expressions oscillated between contempt and disbelief, as if for a fleeting second, she was reconsidering her role in all this, but before any realization could settle, she turned her eyes back to me, a silent judge ready to strike. "You don't know what you're doing," she warned, the poise in her voice masking a crack of uncertainty. "You're too naive to understand the implications of getting involved with him." But for the first time, her words didn't sting. They bounced off me like rain on a shield. I held on to that fleeting strength. It was mine, even as everything around us felt fractured. "You're wrong," I replied steadily, my gaze flicking back to him, whose blue eyes burned with an almost frantic determination. "I'm not here to play a part in anyone's story but my own." "And neither is he." "Then you need to walk away," the stranger said, his voice low and dangerous, as he moved closer to create dominance over the space. Before it's too late. That it felt like ice coursed through my veins, yet a surge of heat ignited behind my breastbone. The thought of retreating was as painful as scraping off bandages from an unhealed wound. But I knew, retreat meant absence, it meant letting someone else dictate my course. "Don't let them scare you," the man beside me whispered, leaning closer, as if his warmth could distract from the cold looming in the air. Each of his words wound tighter around my heart. "We can stand against this." My breath hitched, a fragile tug of war between hope and fear, as the intensity of his gaze steeled my resolve. "I won't let them." In that moment, I felt more alive than I had in ages. Unexpected courage sprouted in my chest, like resilient blooms flourishing amid the harshest conditions. With a subtle nod, he gestured for me to stay close, the world swirling but the contact grounding. "We can navigate this together." And yet, just as I believed the storm would calm, the stranger charged forward, his presence molding shadows and hostility. "You think you can just ignore the consequences? The fallout?" He leaned in, a predatory gleam sharpening his features. "You're playing with things you don't understand." Before I could process the threat, he raised a hand and collided it against the wall in frustration, making the picture's frame rattle. Reverberating chaos echoed through the corridor. A breath caught in my throat, but in the instant of their confrontation, a flicker of something softer caught my eye, a scrap of paper fluttering down to the floor, forgotten amidst the mania. My curiosity flickered just enough for me to take a step back, the chaos still swirling, but a tiny chink had appeared in the turmoil. "Wait," I murmured, bending to retrieve the paper. My instincts screamed to leave it be, to focus on the confrontation at hand, yet something urged me to explore this newfound distraction. As my fingers brushed against the faded inked letters, my heart raced. The words on the paper wielded a gravity that threatened to pull me deeper. "What is it?" the man urged, his heavy breaths matching the tempo of the unyielding tension around us. "That I don't know," I whispered, heart racing faster, "but it feels like a secret." As I unfolded the crinkled note, I scarcely noticed the growing silence enveloping us, the two men freezing, eyes focused solely on me. And as I read the words inscribed, it struck me, like a bullet piercing through armor, revealing layers of truths and ties that bound us together in ways I never imagined. "An address." My voice trailed off, the implications dawning heavier. "It's an address, and it's in Brooklyn." Fear, desperation, and the thrill of unknown possibilities intertwined, dragging me deeper into the whirlwind of our unformed destiny. I looked up to see their expressions resolve etched on the man I had just begun to trust, while the other wore a mask of disbelief, but looming behind all of this was a vibrant wall of confusion, with swirling thoughts and emotions threatening to spin out of control. Would this note bind us further or fracture whatever I had just begun to touch within this tangled reality? It wasn't just a choice anymore, it was a leap into the unknown, holding on to the belief that love, however unlikely, could bloom in the most unforgiving soil. Suddenly, I felt the world tilt unexpectedly as the weight of this decision loomed overhead, pulling tight as I stood at the precipice, a cliffhanger woven with shrieks of the past and inklings of soft possibility, an unanswered question hanging heavily in the air. What awaited me at that address? Would it be salvation, or yet another strand of devastation? Only time would tell, and now my only possible path lay beneath the flickering glow of hope amidst the shadows. The address lingered in my mind, a beacon of possibility amid the chaos surrounding us. I stood frozen for a moment, the unfurled paper clutched tightly in my hands as the air thickened with unresolved tension. The stranger's anger simmered, while the man beside me braced himself, ready for whatever storm was about to break. The woman's gaze shifted back to the note, her contempt momentarily veiled by a flicker of intrigue. "What does it say?" she pressed, her voice laced with an urgency that was difficult to place. "It's an address," I managed to say, my heart thumping heavily against my ribcage, threatening to burst forth with every syllable. "In Brooklyn. It doesn't matter." The stranger spat, not allowing the words to settle. "It won't change anything. You're still playing with fire, and you don't even know it." My gaze flicked back to him, met by the fire still burning in his eyes. "Maybe it does matter," I replied, steadying my voice against the mounting tempest. "What if it's a way out? A way to find answers, or a trap?" the woman countered, her skepticism unwavering. "You don't know what you're stepping into." That terrified me. The note represented a leap beyond the sphere of comfort I had clung to all my life, but perhaps it could offer an understanding that I yearned for, a foundation to build upon. But staying here, living in fear, it's no life at all. Any life I could have is worth taking the risk that so you opt for danger. The stranger challenged, a mix of anger and worry weaving through his tone, yet I could also see the flicker of concern behind the rage. "Yes," I breathed, feeling my resolve solidify. The man beside me shifted closer until our shoulders brushed, and I sensed his electricity, the tether of our shared determination strengthening. "I choose to know." The stranger let out a harsh laugh, but I refused to flinch. "You're a fool to think you could just run into the unknown. There's no happiness there. I'd take unknown over this suffocating fear any day," I defended, frustration flooding my veins. It felt like we were caught in a cyclone of conflicting wills, where every moment became pregnant with consequence. But amidst that chaos, the thin thread of connection binding me to the man beside me glimmered with the kind of hope I had thought lost. Without breaking eye contact, he leaned slightly toward me, a tangible promise hanging between us. "Whatever happens, I'll be there with you," he reassured, the sincerity in his eyes delivering a surge of warmth that would break through the dank chill that surrounded us. "Do you hear that?" The woman scoffed, crossing her arms as if our fragile bond were a mere joke to her. "You think his promise will protect you? You're mistaken." The tremor in her voice suggested layers of her own turmoil, and for the first time, I wondered what trepidations had brought her to this narrow path of bitterness. She was so closed off, shackled by the shadows of her past, and somehow, as afraid as I was. "I don't care what you think," I retorted, but the edge of uncertainty long nestled in my heart began to twist. "I need to know what happens at that address." "You really think this Parisian fantasy will save you?" The woman's scoff caught me off guard. "You'll turn into your own hero, in the end. It's the same story told again and again." "Maybe," I whispered, dropping my voice as I felt the weight of her disdain, "but I'd rather be a fool trying than a coward too afraid to try at all." "Listen," she began, but the stranger cut her off, eyes narrowing as he stepped in front of me in an act of defiance. "Why don't you just leave her alone?" he said, voice low and almost pleading, wresting me away from the undertow of her treachery. "You're scared too, aren't you? Scared of what might happen if you let it all go?" Her stony expression faltered. I caught a glimpse of vulnerability, of fear intertwined with pride. "You don't know me," she whispered, voice cracking as the mask she held up against us began to crumble. "Then let us in, even just a little," he replied gently, as if reaching out into an abyss, hoping for something, a connection amid the rubble. But as she opened her mouth to respond, the air shifted, suddenly charged with a palpable energy. An unforeseen presence materialized, somehow pulling all of our attention. The atmosphere shifted as a door creaked open slowly, unsettlingly echoing a promise and a threat all at once. A figure stepped through, shrouded in a tangle of shadows, and I gasped, my heart clutching tighter. There was a recognition in the air, a familiar scent weaving through the layers of unease. My breath caught, recognition blurring the lines of fear until a rush of confusion overtook me. Why are you here? I breathed, the edge of fear clawing back into the forefront of my mind, as the figure stepped forward, half obscured by the dimly lit room, because, came a voice low and unfamiliar, it's time we all knew the truth. As the world around us seemed to hold its breath, the echo of secrets hung in the air, heavier than before. In that moment, the tightrope between choice and fate loomed before me once again, pulling me towards an even darker precipice. What truth would unravel before us, and what shadows would emerge from it? The answers were about to collide with our lives in a way that could shatter everything I thought I knew. The room felt like it was closing in on us, the shadows wrapping tighter around our bodies as the figure stepped into the flickering light. I squinted, trying to make out the features of this unexpected intruder. The unfamiliar voice wove through the atmosphere, and as it resonated in my ears, adrenaline surged within me, electrifying the moments of uncertainty that had simmered below the surface. Who are you? I finally managed to ask, my voice coming out steadier than the turmoil roiling in my gut. The figure's expression remained obscured, yet the firm yet cautious demeanor reminded me of someone I had once known. That thought hung there, heavy and pulsating, as the tension in the room grew unbearable. Whatever lay in the shadows of that voice felt far too familiar. You'll find out soon enough, they replied, and I felt a dagger of apprehension pierce through my resolve. The stranger beside me shifted again, a protective instinct igniting in him as the aura of mystery enveloped us. What do you want? He demanded, his tone daring the figure to cross an invisible line. Our adversaries, clearly tangled between the echoes of fear and curiosity, diverted their eyes momentarily. Answers, the figure declared. And to help you understand the choice you're about to make, that I asked this about the address. I interjected, trying to tether myself to something tangible amidst the chaos that surrounded us. Does it hold the answers I seek? The figure regarded me steadily, their gaze piercing through to my core as they replied, it holds everything you need to know. Ringing silence followed, punctuated only by the muffled sounds outside the doorway. Each footfall of an unsuspecting passerby felt like an assault on the stillness. In that moment, I felt small and exposed, as if the very fabric of my being was woven into the mosaic of choices I had yet to make. What if I don't want to know? I hesitated, the raw vulnerability of my question almost startling. A part of me longed for the safety of ignorance, for a flicker of comfort amid the whirlwind. The figure leaned forward slightly, the shadows intertwining with their features, coaxing an unsettling image into focus. You think you can escape the truth? It's already intertwined with you, like roots looping deep into the earth. Stop. The woman barked, her voice rising with frustration. The primal rage in her tone caught us all off guard. You can't just barge in here and offer riddles. We're in a fragile balance right now, don't ruin it. Maybe this balance isn't meant to last, the figure retorted, unfazed. Their words landed like stones, sending ripples through the fabric of our uncertain fates. I narrowed my gaze, searching for cracks behind the walls they had built. You know something, don't you? I whispered, feeling a swell of belief igniting inside me. You understand what the address means. Silence enveloped the room, my question sparking an unforeseen light in the figure's eyes. It's not just about what you will find there. It's about the choice you face every single day, the choice to run from who you are or to embrace it fully. That I know who I am, I replied defiantly, but even as the words escaped my lips, I could sense the tremor of doubt that quivered just beneath the surface. Do you? The figure took a step closer, driving the wind from my lungs. Your past is limiting you. It cloaks you in shadows of regret and fear. At that address, you will uncover how far the web reaches, who you truly are underneath it all, and just like that, the layered fabric of our confrontation unraveled, revealing the raw, pulsing heart of our deepest fears. The stranger beside me tightened his grip on my arm, grounding me with unspoken promises. Please, he implored softly, you don't have to face it alone. I'm here, remember? His voice was a lifeline that pulled me back from the abyss of uncertainty, reminding me of the warmth that had sparked between us, but just as my heart swelled with gratitude, the woman broke the moment's fragile peace. "And what if you're wrong? What if knowing the truth destroys everything?" Her question rippled through us, an insidious specter of doubt. "Then we rebuild," I said, conviction threading through my tone. "But I can't keep running. I need to stop hiding behind shadows mine or anyone else's. I refuse to let fear dictate my fate any longer." As I spoke, an unexpected clarity washed over me, but the challenge ahead was immensely, a torrent of unknowns swirling in a tempest beyond my control. "It's time," the figure stated at last, the shadows receding in the light of their words. "Follow me, and know what you seek." With an electric pulse flickering through me and the weight of indecision behind me, I took a moment to look at the two people standing beside me. This fragile alliance built on a foundation of shared struggles, fractured dreams, and uncertain hope flickered before me like a beacon. And then, almost imperceptibly, a tremor of realization coursed through the air, a change that permeated every ounce of my being. "Wait," I called out, the air laden with unbroken questions. "What if I can't face what's waiting for me?" "Then you'll face it with us," the stranger replied, and with those comforting words, the warmth of unity kindled anew, illuminating the dark corners of my heart. That I took a deep breath, but as I stepped forward, a sudden realization seized me. What if the truths waiting for me were far darker than I could possibly imagine? What if the address designed to lead me towards freedom led directly into the snare of my most dreaded fears? "Let's go," I resolved, though doubt still gnawed at the edges of my mind, pulling me back. But as the shadows loomed and the figure beckoned me onward, a certainty seeped into my bones. Sometimes, the hardest part of a journey is simply taking the first step into the unknown, and just as my foot crossed the threshold, a haunting whisper echoed from the fringes of the dark. "You'll wish you never knew." The weight of their words pressed down on me, squeezing every last trace of courage from my heart. The truth awaited. But was my spirit ready to confront what lay beyond the veil? The world outside felt impossibly far away as I stepped into the unknown, my hand brushing against the cool, unyielding wall beside me. The figure led us through a narrow passageway lit only by the flickering glow of a dying bulb, casting elongated shadows that danced ominously around us. Each step I took echoed with uncertainty, the rhythm of my heart pounding like a drum in the silence. As my companions followed closely, I stole a sideways glance at the stranger who had stood by my side, his face a tableau of concern and determination. In the dim light, I could see the way the muscles in his jaw tightened, the faintest hint of vulnerability in his eyes. It was comforting and terrifying all at once. The mere presence of another soul on this tumultuous journey sparked a flicker of hope amid the cocoon of fear that enveloped me. "Do you really think we can face whatever's waiting for us?" I asked quietly, my voice threaded with doubt. He caught my gaze, those penetrating eyes reflecting an unwavering resolve that unsettled me and stabilized me all at once. "That I know we can," he replied, his confidence washing over me like a soothing balm. "You're not alone in this anymore," but the comfort of his words felt curiously fragile, as if they were woven from the very shadows that trailed us. I took a deep breath, searching for strength in the intertwining roots of hope and despair that had taken root in my heart. Was I brave enough to embrace the truth, whatever it might reveal? A question lingered in the air, a silent specter that wouldn't easily be dismissed. The figure ahead stopped, turning to face us with an intensity that made my breath hitch. "Are you prepared? Because once you step through that door, there will be no turning back." The finality in their voice echoed through the narrow corridor, and I sensed my heartbeat quicken, thrumming wildly beneath my skin. That I nodded, even though a heavy weight settled in my stomach. "I have to know." My voice was steadier than I felt, flowing from a place deep within me that yearned for clarity. The door creaked open with a painful slowness, revealing a room filled with artifacts of the past, dust-covered photographs, faded letters, and remnants of lives lived long ago. Each object held a whisper of a story untold, a life with secrets that gnawed at the edges of my consciousness. My heart sank, realizing that the weight of history eclipsed even my own burdens. Suddenly, warmth washed over me, and a strange sense of belonging entwined with the anxiety that hung thick in the air. It was as if the very walls bore witness to my struggles, embracing me as if to remind me that I was not merely an echo of my fears but a force ready to reclaim my place in the world. My gaze fell upon a photograph resting on a table, the face of a woman strikingly similar to mine staring back at me. She wore an expression that echoed a deep sadness, and a wave of recognition crashed over me, the thrum of my heart quickening. I began, but my voice faltered as a knot of realization twisted painfully in my chest. The figures stepped closer, their expression revealing nothing, yet a flicker of acknowledgement crossed their face. Yes, that is your mother, they confirmed, their voice soft yet grave. There is much to uncover about your past, about her choices, and how they led you here. The revelation splintered through my defenses, grief piercing the carefully constructed dam that had protected my heart. She left me, I whispered, unable to ignore the surge of betrayal mingling with an ache for understanding. How can I trust what's waiting for me? That was her choice. This is yours, the figure replied, their words imbued with a solemn gravity. You can confront the shadows she left behind or allow them to cloud your future. The urge to flee surged within me. I thought about running back into the safety of the known, into the sanctuary created in the anonymity of my mundane life. Was I prepared to carry the weight of my lineage, the chains of choices made long before I existed? I cast a desperate glance toward the stranger beside me. Seeking a tether to hold me steady, "I'll stay with you," he offered, his hand reaching for mine with a warmth that anchored me amid the turmoil. "Whatever we find, we'll face it together. I promise." His unwavering commitment ignited a flicker of courage deep within me, reminding me that amidst the tangled history of regret and heartache, the compassion of another could illuminate even the darkest corners. The shadows of uncertainty still loomed large, but they no longer felt insurmountable. Swallowing hard, I reached for the photograph, my fingers trembling as they brushed against the faded edges. In that moment, a flood of memories surged through, laughter once shared, warmth stolen away, and an understanding finally waiting to emerge. As I lifted the photo closer, a chill raced down my spine, as if something vital stirred in the depths beyond recognition. But just as the fabric of revelations began to unravel, the room quaked, sending vibrations through the floor beneath us. The shelves rattled dangerously, and dust cascaded down from the ceiling. My heart raced, a surge of dread tightening my throat. "That we need to leave," the figure urged, panic creeping into their otherwise steady tone. "It's too dangerous to stay here any longer." "No," I cried out, fueled by a newfound determination. "I won't run. Not anymore. I'm going to face whatever truth lies ahead." "But you," the figure attempted to argue, but I took a step forward, shaking off their concern, and then I saw a flicker of movement from the corner of my eye. I turned, heart pounding, only to discover a door in the corner I hadn't seen before, a faint light spilling through its cracks, beckoning like a long-lost friend. "Over there," I shouted, my heart racing as I pointed in its direction. Hope coursed through my veins, but as I turned back, the figure's expression morphed into one of dread. "No. You can't go through that door," but it was too late. The promise of light called to me, drowning out the sound of warnings as I bolted forward. The grip of darkness still clung violently to my thoughts. What awaited behind that door could be a sanctuary, or it might just shatter everything I thought I knew. As I reached for the handle, the world around me swirled, and in that breathless moment, I was left standing on the precipice of a decision that would plunge me into the depths of truth or unravel everything forever. And as the door swung open, I gasped in astonishment, a reflection not just of my past but of choices yet to come. But as shadows danced menacingly at the edge of the light, I realized, perhaps for the first time, some secrets are bound to a darkness that cannot be easily escaped. And in the straining silence, a realization washed over me: the truths I might uncover could alter the fabric of everything I held dear. The fate of not just my past but the life I had built and the love slowly budding beside me hung precariously in the balance. The light beyond the door was blinding, a stark contrast to the shadows that had enveloped me for so long. As I stepped over the threshold, a rush of warmth enveloped me, bringing with it the scent of blooming flowers and freshly cut grass. My heart raced not from fear but from something inexplicable, something resembling hope interlaced with a dawning realization. The room I entered was vast and open, a forgotten garden where vines crept along old stone walls, bursting with life in color and fragrance. Near the center stood an ancient oak tree, its bark gnarled and twisting, yet its branches reached toward the sky, alive with bright blossoms. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, whispering secrets that tugged at the corners of my memory. But just as I began to marvel at this unexpected beauty, I felt a shift in the atmosphere. The quiet hum of nature was disrupted by distant voices, echoes that carried an unmistakable weight, a sense of urgency and conflict. I spun around, my eyes searching for the source. Had I truly escaped the shadows, or was this garden merely another front in the battle against the ghosts haunting me? Before I could gather my thoughts, the figure who had led me here stepped through the door, their expression a mix of concern and resolve. "You shouldn't have come here," they said, their voice barely above a whisper. "This place is not simply a sanctuary. It's a crossroads, and the choices you face will ripple through everything." Ripple through what? My voice was a mixture of defiance and desperation as I fought to understand. "I thought this was my chance to find answers that it is," they said, their eyes glistening with unshed emotion. "But clarity comes with its price, and sometimes the truths unearthed can change who you are, who you think you are." I took a step back, the weight of their words crashing around me. "You mean I'm not ready?" I felt the panic rising again, filling my chest with an icy grip. "I can't run from this." "I won't." "Running may not be the answer, but neither is diving in headfirst without understanding the stakes," they replied, intensity lacing their tone. "You don't know what awaits you here. Choices made in this very space could reach far beyond your understanding." Just then, a rustle interrupted our conversation, and both our gazes snapped toward the sound. Emerging from the garden's depths were figures I recognized, the other members of our group. Their presence brought with it an unexpected mix of relief and dread, for they too carried the weight of the secrets I had long tried to escape. "Are you all right?" the stranger beside me asked, stepping closer, concern etched across his features. "I think so," I admitted, searching for my own solidity amidst the whirlwind of emotions. The warmth of his hand on my shoulder grounded me, but the very ground we stood upon felt dangerously unstable. As my gaze drifted back to the garden, panic clawed at my heart. "What do you all want from me?" I finally asked, my voice strained. I left behind a life that felt manageable, and now am confronted with this fragment of my past. The garden felt like an impenetrable labyrinth of expectation. From the shadows, another figure stepped forward, a face I had never seen before, one that shimmered with recognition. "You've been chosen, you know." Their voice was melodic yet chilling. "The course of your life isn't merely about the choices of your mother, it's about what you will choose now. The truth is a burden, not unlike a gift that can reshape destinies." I felt the world tilt slightly at their words, the inevitability of choice crashing against my senses like waves against a shore. "What if I'm not ready to carry that burden?" My voice trembled, fear and vulnerability intertwining. "Prepare yourself," the figure continued, their eyes gleaming darkly. "The truths buried within this garden will unravel your life and force you to confront the love you've built and the lies that lie dormant." Suddenly, the air shifted, growing heavy and charged. I turned to my companion, seeking solace in the warmth of his presence, but found him frozen, his expression a storm of confusion and concern. "What does this mean for us?" I asked, the plea evident in my tone. "Together, we can weather whatever storms arise," he assured me, yet flickers of doubt flashed across his face. The ancient oak loomed in front of us, its branches whispering promises, yet underneath it lay a darkness that demanded recognition. I stepped forward, determined to touch its rough bark as if to draw strength from the essence of its age and wisdom. The instant my fingertips brushed the surface, an overwhelming surge of emotions flooded through me, a patchwork of fragmented memories and unvoiced cries. Visions flashed before my eyes, laughter shared with a mother I hardly knew, the vacant space in my heart where her love should have dwelled, moments marred by pain yet beautiful in their fleeting nature. It was all there, the duality of joy and sorrow, the longing and the anchor of love slowly blossoming beside me, but then, just as swiftly, the visions turned dark and chaotic, shadows unveiled betrayals, truths seeping from every crevice. Voices rose, accusations hurled like daggers, slicing through the fragile fabric of my hope. In that instant, I saw not only my past but the birth of my decisions that I staggered back, gasping for air, as realizations crashed into me with violent force. I didn't think I wanted this. I was so afraid. The tears fell unrestrained, carving paths down my cheeks. Fear is just a mask for something deeper, something more powerful, the figure said, their voice hauntingly calm. Your past may bind you, but it could also free you, provided you embrace it fully and utterly. Around me, the garden transformed vines began to twist and twine, pulling together in a way that felt sinister and seductive all at once. I grasped the stranger's hand, their warmth an anchor against an encroaching tide of uncertainty. Together, I whispered, as if saying it could solidify our resolve against the storm brewing in the depths. Then the voice from the shadows spoke again, low and haunting. What's hidden can slip through your fingers, but what is revealed in this garden will change everything, and so it begins. With that, the ground beneath us trembled once more, not from fear but anticipation, quaking with the weight of choices to come. As I readied myself to face the truths that might reshape my life forever, I understood with a sudden clarity that love could thrive even amid the heaviest burdens, but it would require the strength to confront the darkness that sought to unravel it. And just then, the shadows parted to reveal a path that led deeper into the garden and further into the heart of my haunting truths, beckoning me toward the unknown. As I took a step forward, the echoes of their words lingered ominously, whispering a single truth that hung heavy in the air: this was just the beginning. The path before me twisted deep into the heart of the garden, the air thick with a scent both intoxicating and foreboding. My heartbeat echoed in my ears, a frantic reminder of the gravity of the choice that lay ahead. The gnarled roots of uncertainty clung to my feet with every step, but there was an undeniable pull, a curiosity I could not ignore. As I ventured further, the previously vibrant flowers began to dim, their colors draining like the life from them. A chill settled over the area, and shadows seemed to weave through the foliage. Yet just ahead, I spotted a flicker of light, a promise of warmth and safety. I moved toward it, driven by an instinct that tingled with a blend of hope and trepidation. The light revealed itself to be a small clearing, illuminated by a circle of glimmering fireflies, their glow casting a gentle warmth reminiscent of home. It was here that I saw them, figures cloaked in mist, their features hazy yet somehow familiar. My heart raced as I walked closer, recognizing the essence of those I had loved and lost. Mom. I breathed, the name a sacred whisper that hung in the air. The specter before me morphed an ethereal image of my mother, her eyes sparkling with wisdom and love, yet shadowed with a sorrow that echoed in my soul. Honey, she said, her voice a lilting melody that wrapped around me, you've come so far. The sight of her filled me with a rush of emotions, each one crashing over me like waves on a turbulent shore. I longed to reach out, to embrace her, but as I stepped closer, the space between us thinned, and I felt a new presence, one that pulled at the very fabric of my being. Suddenly, from the opposite side of the clearing, another figure stepped into view, a tall silhouette that I recognized all too well. My heart plummeted, twisting with a mixture of fear and longing. It was Daniel, my past's greatest joy and deepest sorrow. His expression was unreadable, a mix of pain and hope, making it impossible to gauge his intentions. Why are you both here? I asked, my voice trembling, caught between the embrace of my mother and the gravity of Daniel's gaze. Because, my dear, my mother replied softly, there are things you need to confront. Choices you've made that require your understanding, and you're not alone in this journey. Daniel holds a piece of it. Why him? I demanded, the weight of unresolved feelings swelling within me. What does he have to do with my choices? Daniel stepped forward, hesitating as if every step was laden with the memories we shared, both beautiful and bitter. Because I was part of the storm that uprooted your life, he said, his voice low and sincere. You may not want to admit it, but my actions opened doors you didn't even know existed. The chaos you feel is tied to the love we once shared. The air crackled with tension, the very atmosphere thickening as emotions collided violently. I thought I had moved on, I stammered, fear washing over me. You were supposed to be a chapter, not the entire story. That I understand, he replied, his eyes dark pools of regret and longing. But the journey doesn't end where you think. You are here to embrace the truth, and I am part of it. Take my hand, and together we can forge a path through the storm. But just as I lifted my hand to touch his, a gust of wind howled through the clearing, scattering the fireflies that illuminated this moment of revelation. The shadows danced violently around us, and I felt that familiar cold grip tightening around my heart, echoes of the past threatening to pull me back into despair. Do not give in, my mother urged, her voice rising above the tempest. You cannot allow fear to dictate your choices. In choosing to confront your past, you will also reclaim your future. Another brilliant flash of light emerged spontaneously, illuminating the dark. I turned, startled, and saw a figure emerging from the depths, a woman cloaked in darkness, her face obscured by a shadowed veil. The truth is not always what it seems, she intoned, her voice reverberating through my very core. What you seek to gain may come at an unimaginable cost. Will you have the strength to carry it? As my heart raced, I glanced between Daniel and my mother, an internal battle waging within me. The light flickered, and the clarity I craved felt like it was fading. But what if the truth isn't what I want? What if it shatters everything I've built? That's an inevitable risk, Daniel replied, desperation tinged in his voice. But until you confront what lies in this garden, this life you've begun to rebuild will never be yours. It will forever be haunted by what you don't face. The wind howled louder, swirling around us like a tempest, and suddenly the ground trembled beneath my feet. Shadows began to rise, twisting and curling upward as if trying to escape the very truths we were attempting to uncover. I was teetering on the brink of a precipice, my heart pounding a furious rhythm of courage and doubt. What if I'm not ready? I murmured, grief and determination mixing in a heady swirl. What if I fail? You won't be alone, my mother's voice reassured me amidst the chaos, the warmth of her love breaking through the shadows. We are with you, guiding you, but you must take that step forward. Choose, the dark figure warned, her voice echoing ominously as the shadows danced dangerously close at my feet. You cannot stand between two worlds without consequence. With every ounce of strength, I drew in a breath, my resolve solidifying. Together, then, I said, turning my gaze to Daniel as our hands almost touched. Together, we'll confront it all. But just before our fingers could intertwine, the shadows surged forth, closing around me with an insistent pull. The voices intertwined, screams of laughter, cries of pain, echoes of love lost and found, all converging into a single moment that felt like a heartbeat suspended in time. I stood on the precipice of my past and future, and as the shadows wrapped around me, I felt the fine line between fear and acceptance blur. The very fabric of destiny trembled, promising revelations that would untangle the knots binding my heart. And then, as the darkness folded in around me, ready to swallow my choice, I whispered softly, I choose love. At that moment, reality twisted around me, and everything changed. As the world tilted and the shadows began to envelop me completely, I felt a pulse beneath the surface, a heartbeat that wasn't just mine, but something bigger, something intertwined with the essence of love that had slipped through my fingers too many times to count. With the weight of my choice ringing in the air, I felt the oppressive shadow begin to shift, rearranging itself into something less threatening, like a gust of wind dispersing a dense fog. The darkness curled like smoke, pulling away to reveal faces, familiar ones that gaped back at me, wrapped in disbelief and recognition. My mother's image shimmered before me, her ethereal form glowing brighter in the clarity of my decision. You chose love, she marveled, voice carrying the weight of ages, intertwining with the other specters surrounding us. The love I thought lost but had always lingered at the edges of my heart. Daniel stepped closer, his silhouette carved from the very light that had begun to bloom elegantly around us. You did it, he murmured, all lacing his words, and all those tangled feelings of the past, the joy, the pain, the longing rose within me, unfurling like some rare blossom beneath the warmth of the sun. In that magical moment, I saw the impact of my choice ripple through the garden, weaving its threads of love into the very fabric of the universe. The truth I feared so deeply didn't break me, it fortified me, reshaping every heartbreak, every lesson learned, binding my story with threads of forgiveness and understanding. This wasn't merely about my struggles, it was a testament to the resilient journey of the human heart. Reclaim your past, and let it guide your future, my mother urged, pride lifting her spirit as she melted into the glow surrounding us. It doesn't have to shackle you, it can be a bridge to all you were meant to achieve. You are not alone. I turned to Daniel, our gazes locked in mutual understanding, the weight of the past transforming into a foundation for something beautiful, something real. What if we had nothing to lose? I challenged softly, my heart racing with the possibility that unfolded before USA chanced to rewrite our story. With a pulse of renewed energy, he reached for my hand, our fingers intertwining, hearts thrumming in sync. Then we write a new chapter together. One anchored in love, not fear, and just as I embraced the idea, an unexpected twist pulled at my heart. The woman who had once held scorn in her eyes now stepped forward, her icy exterior had softened, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability beneath. Forgiveness can be terrifying, she admitted, her voice trembling. But perhaps it's time for all of us to let go of the shackles we've built. What if we took it one step further? I proposed, trembling yet confident. We could begin anew, shedding the armor that has defined our relationships. As I looked at the figures surrounding us, a sense of belonging began to solidify, the very fabric of our lives entwined not just in trauma, but in the infinite possibilities love could conjure when we allowed ourselves to turn toward it. That we can face our choices together, the woman declared, eyes shimmering with purpose, and maybe in that truth, we'll finally find peace. The haunting echoes of my past began to dissolve beneath the light of our collective resolve, as if the garden itself sighed with relief, unfurling into vibrant blooms once more. The atmosphere shifted around us, vibrating with warmth and transformation, and as I turned to the entrance of the garden, the shimmering portal beckoned, shimmering with the promise of new beginnings. With a shared glance among us, me mother's spirit, Daniel's gentle strength, and the woman's newfound acceptance, was stepped forward, the threshold revealing a horizon painted in colors I had never known. It was alive with potential that blossomed like the most exquisite wildflowers, radiating warmth and hope. As we crossed through the threshold, I felt my heart swell, embracing the duality of my past experiences while also welcoming the unfolding adventure ahead. Love would guide us, lighting our way and binding us in a tapestry woven from shadows and laughter. In the embrace of this glowing dawn, I found it within myself to speak the words I had long craved to hear. My life doesn't have to be defined by what I've lost. It can be filled with all the love I choose to embrace. And in that moment, standing at the edge of everything I had fought for, I knew that our story, ours to define, was only just beginning. As the garden flourished behind us, I held on to the flicker of hope burning bright, for I had discovered the essence of love not just as a fleeting emotion, but as a force capable of annihilating the darkness, creating a legacy written in every heart we touched. The world awaited us, and with every step forward, I felt the weight lifting, the shadows faint and distant, replaced by the promise of endless light. No longer splintered by fear, we would face whatever came next together, the true legacy of love. And finally, as our path unfurled to embrace the morning sun, I whispered with fierce determination, this is our new beginning.